Well, hello there, West in the world. It is Thursday, October the 16th. And this morning we continued and wrapped up our discussion of the French Revolution and the era of Atlantic revolutions more generally. We obviously went into a lot of detail this morning, working through the different phases of the French Revolution. If you're trying to sort of map it out for yourself, I suppose you can think of it in terms of the stages we talked about as the sort of the era of the Radical Revolution, the Napoleonic era, and then the Restoration, marked out by the Congress of Vienna and the efforts of conservatives to sort of restore order. So what did we see in all of this? Well, we saw that the French Revolution, in its quest to reform the French government, in its pursuit of those goals towards citizenship and rights for all, got caught up in a phase, the Committee of Public Safety, the Reign of Terror, that undermined that pursuit in its pure savage viciousness. And someone like Robespierre stands out as the sort of exemplar. The reaction against that, of course, ultimately sort of undermines the revolution. And so rather than turn to leaders who are calling for citizenship and greater rights and voting, etc., you see the rise of military leaders, and particularly Napoleon, who is able to sort of grab a hold of the support of both people who believe in the French Revolution and its values, and those who are fearful of it, and negotiate some kind of middle way, if you will, between them, all the while bringing to himself a greater concentration of power. So you want to make sure that you understand something about the rise and the trajectory of the career of Napoleon Bonaparte, climaxing, of course, with his final defeat in the invasions of Russia in 1812, and then subsequently the defeat at Waterloo in 1815. Napoleon's fall gives rise then to the era of the Restoration, and to an attempt by very powerful conservative-minded factions in European politics to try to pretend like the whole revolution never happened. And that's what the Congress of Vienna, we said, was all about. The restoration of legitimate governments guided by monarchs and established churches, and the creation of a balance of power that will preserve the tranquility that they so would like to see returned. On the one count, the balance of power, the Congress of Vienna succeeded, we said, and gives birth to 99 years of relative peace and stability in Europe. On the other count, in restoring what it would have considered legitimate government, it's a miserable failure. And although we didn't delve too deeply into it, we saw that, for example, the revolutions of 1848, fired by new ideologies like nationalism and liberalism, are going to pose significant changes, and really Europe will never go back to the way that it was prior to the French Revolution. We also concluded with the reminder that this spirit of the French Revolution, the demands for rights, the struggle for recognition that it represented, has spilled well beyond the borders of France, and particularly in the Haitian Revolution and in Latin American revolts. We only touch very briefly on those. You'll want to read more carefully about them in your textbook. But understanding that they come from this same well of ideas helps us understand why the 19th century is going to be very much about ideologies of change, a topic we'll be coming to quite soon after we complete our discussion next week of the Industrial Revolution. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. See you on Tuesday.